Hello everyone. So welcome to our channel by NCQ. And here in this today's lesson, we are just going to just to start our new topic that is called as energy currency, right? So in this energy currency topic, as you all know, it is a very important thing that our cell needs some kind of energy for run various certain kind of conducting reactions, right? So suppose, but one thing I must say, if you don't visit to our two previous video, please go to there and the links are below in the description. So please go there and just have a look at those two videos and in which we just giving such a brief discussion about certain important keywords. So even if I also just give you a brief discussion here, but please go must visit those two videos for your better understanding, right? So as we have already discussed about those keywords and important points, but for your better understand, I just have a brief look on those keywords. So in our previous class, we just discussing about what is energy, right? So energy, as we discussed in our early video, that is nothing but the ability to do works, right? So this is nothing but the ability to do various works and different in other words, according to your biochemist, this is the metabolic certain kind of metabolic activity that carried inside our cell, and those cell needs energy to perform this kind of metabolic activities, right? And every cell has its metabolic activity. So that is the one thing we discussed in our previous class. Another term is oxidation and reduction, right? So those cells, suppose a cell or suppose a atom, right? Suppose a atom lose its electron, right? Lose its electron. This reaction is called as oxidation condition or oxidative condition, right? Oxidation. So eventually a atom lose its electron, right? Lose its electron, then definitely there is somebody to accept it, right? So those atoms who accept those electrons is known as reduced condition, right? Reduced condition. It is a very simple thing that we have already discussed in our previous classes. So basically these two are most important thing. Another two important things are, it is called as exergonic reaction and endergonic reactions, right? So basically what is mean by exergonic and endergonic reaction? So these are basically those terminology when cells perform its metabolic activity, and cell needs some energy, and cell also release some energy, right? in the form of in the form of heat or any or ATP, right? So when a cell reduced its energy, like the phosphate group, its release or breakdown from a reaction. So when a cell release some energy to perform certain kind of its activity, it is known as exergonic reaction. Just simply remember this exergonic term, release of energy, right? Release of energy. So simply, what is endergonic reaction? It is basically simply the ut utilization of those released energy, right? So absolutely, it is a give and take scenario. Once a cell is released energy, simultaneously there are other cells or there are other kind of metabolic activity who also simultaneously need that energy, right? So if eventually there is a reaction A to B to C, right? So eventually if A to B's conversion of this reaction release your ATP, is also may be utilized in the form of B to C reaction, maybe. So this is called as exergonic, and this reaction is known as endergonic, right? So it's a basic understanding. So here are some basic key points we are just discussed in our early videos also, and eventually also discuss about the the rules of thermodynamics, right? So basically you just go there and study all the kind. There is basically two types and two types of rules. First one is energy neither be created nor be destroyed. As you all know, the two rules of thermodynamics. And the second one is the energy which is released in form of heat, it is not converted to its native form, and it will increase your entropy, right? Entropy means basically is the disorderness, right? Disorderness, because the heat released from as a kind of energy, it is not come back to any other activities, or cannot utilized in another any other functionalities or metabolic activity. So it will generally increase the disorderness. And another terminology that we have also discussed about the storage, the form of energy, right? The form of energy. So basically this, there is two type of form, that is storage form, right? So basically we are discussing two storage form of energy. One is potential energy, right? Another one is kinetic energy. So this energy, as we all already discussed, when the energy is present in a stored manner, right, in the presence between the chemical bonds of that matter, then it is known as the potential energy, right? And when you converted those chemical bonds break down and convert it to its activity form, then it is called as a kinetic form. Suppose there is an, you have said that, suppose there is an energy bar which already stored the energy in its potential form, right? And when you add that energy bar and slowly work out that energy stored inside their chemical bonds is break down and release energy. Released your energy through exergonic reaction, right? Exergonic reaction is carried out and the energy is ultimately released and you perform your daily activity, right? So these are the basic topics we are discussing earlier, in our further in our previous videos. So you just, I hope you just remember those points, and even if you are not aware of those points, please go those videos and you can develop your understanding about this point, because in our upcoming videos we just use those terminology frequently, and even if you are not aware of those key points, it is not possible to have some basic ideas or basic knowledge what I'm going to teach you, right? So please, it's our basic um, duty to cover all of those key points. So now in this today's session, this is known as an energy currency, right? So what do you mean by currency? I hope you all use this, right? Eventually, if you are in a very much out of that currency. So suppose you want some goods and go to a market and you want to buy some goods, and you eventually ask the shopkeeper that give me some kind of goods, right? So eventually he demands some currency, otherwise he did not, otherwise he never give you that particular thing, right? So currency is a very important thing. Eventually our cell also demands some currency, right? Suppose our cell, in our cell there is an ATP, right? It is the form of currency, right? As you all know. So what does this currency do for our cell, right? Just look at our next cell. So before we just go through this what does this ATP did for our cell, we just basically first go through its structure, right? We just understand its structural ability. So ATP, as the name suggests, right, as the name suggests, it is a nucleotide, right? Is building of three intermolecular reactions, three intermolecular molecules. One is nitrogenous base. A nitrogenous base is must in a nucleotide. Second, a ribose sugar, right? As you all know, ribose sugar which provide a base for that nucleotide, and a phosphate group. Third is the phosphate group which eventually stored the released energy, right? Okay. So hopefully you just understand this topic and just go for our next. So as you can see, it is the adenine, right? So is this totally structure is a nitrogenous base, and you already seen, I think you have already seen this structure, so it is not a new structure for you guys. So this is a complete a nitrogenous base, right? Nitrogenous base. Now a ribose sugar is going to attach its to provide a supportive base, right? So here is a ribose sugar, right? So Here is basically a ribose sugar, and this portion is eventually is a previously CH3, right? Unless there is a binding of phosphate group, then the hydrolysis happen to this position, particularly this position, and a hydrogen bond is going to be released, and the phosphate group is going to attach here, right? So as you already noticed that there are three negative oxygen are marked over each of the phosphate group, which repel strongly repel each other, right? And there is an insert of covalent bond, and here is a particular in position where energy is stored. So when cell needs some energy to perform its work, it simply break its outermost phosphate group, which is the third phosphate group, and it's create a breakdown here, and this phosphate group is released from this, right? And eventually leads to ATP is converted to ADP, right? So eventually various reaction is carried out to perform this cell, and when a cell is utilized its energy to do so, and it is converted to exergonic reaction, right? Exergonic reaction. Eventually that ATP is break down to ADP, and that ADP is going to attach with another phosphate group and convert it to ATP, right? That is known as endergonic reaction, right? Now let's think that this is known as your ATP structure, right? As you know, it is the third position of phosphate group. Here a breakdown is happening to through the hydrolysis process is carried out, right? Hydrolysis is carried out, and the breakdown of phosphate group from here, and this ATP is converted to what? ADP, right? Eventually you can, this is the hydrolysis, yes, right? Next you can eventually notice that this phosphate group is released from this and converted to energy, right? It converted to this portion is ADP, is now ADP because two phosphates, diphosphates, right? This diphosphate, adenosine, diphosphate. Here adenosine, this three is just because of this is triphosphate, right? So it is, I think it should be all clear to you guys now. Okay, so let's understand, it's very explain it very in understanding way. Suppose there is an energy bar where is your certain kind of energy stored in a potential manner, right? So energy is stored in a potential manner because it is just stored form, right? Not in a action manner. This simply the energy is stored in that energy bar. So here the no breakdown of any kind of bonds happening. It is simply this. So when our body is going to start work, the chemical bonds are going to break down. As we know, when it's going to release its energy, it is known as your exergonic reaction. Understand? It is very clear concepts. Everything I'm just going to tell you very detailed. That's why you easily understood. Here you notice that all the chemical bonds, all the cells are now, all the energy cells are now so break down one by one and separated, right? So simply it is converted to now, just a second. Okay, so now you can easily see that this energy release is converted to ATP now, right? Now it is going to hydrolysis, ATP hydrolysis, as we can see in our previous slide. Then it's converted to your energy, right? You just started working, just pedaling, right? You just pedaling the bicycle, and your body needs, your cells now needs energy. So when that exergonic ATP needs by another cell, it will be utilized by another cells. That energy is further converted to your another reaction. It is known as endergonic reactions, right? So energy released exergonic, right? In that exergonic energy utilized called as endergonic. Simple thing, nothing worry about that, right? So basically now this ATP is converted to, after hydrolysis, one phosphate group is released from this now, right? So it is now converted to ATP. So there are another phosphate group which is released from this, is going to attach with another ATP eventually, even if it is a cell, suppose. So there is a reaction is going inside this portion, and this portion is going to release, because inside our cell various organelles are present, like your endoplasmic reticulum, your another Golgi bodies. The several reactions are going to happen inside of various organelles inside our cell. There is not a single organelle. Okay, we are eukaryotes, right? So when eventually is a suppose there is a mitochondria, which is also we're just going to describe about it, ultimately known as the powerhouse, right? So when a reaction is going to produce ATP, and eventually that B organelle need that ATP, right? And it is produce ATP, right? And eventually another one is just utilize that ATP and release a phosphate, and it will going bind to this ATP and is converted to ATP again, right? And that ATP is going to this now, right? So this is the coupled reaction. We just simply say this is known as your coupled reaction, right? The energy released from A organelle is utilized by B, and that released B and ATP, and further utilization of ATP, this will be another comes to A, right? So this will a coupled reaction. It is a chain system, right? Now this is called as ATP synthesis, right? Where this ATP synthesis is going to happen in mitochondria. Is an electron transport system. I hope you just know about this electron transport system, and this electron transport system through ATP is going to be synthesized again, right? So this is, as you know, this is a very simple thing, and it is a chain system, right? So it is a chain system. Okay, so this is all about your today's class. As we all know about how the energy, your basic previous keywords, and what is ATP, what is your coupled reaction, and your various other topic like your endothermic reaction, exothermic, endothermic, and your oxidation, and your reduction, your potential energy, and your kinetic energy, and your thermodynamics rules, energy entropy. I hope all kind of this information is going to be beneficial for you. And if you have any kind of doubts, any kind of questions, please don't forget to add those questions as a comment. You can also join us. Sorry, just a second. You just simply ask those questions, and in just also we have the website where you also put your comment. I just give you all details in the description box. Okay, so I hope you enjoyed this video, and you just continue this process, and eventually you can join us on our WhatsApp channel also, where we can provide you a very basic information regarding your career's perspective, and how to develop a career in bioinformatics and other sectors, right? So okay, thanks a lot guys. Just meet you in another next video. Till then, see you, take care, bye bye.